Hi, and welcome to the middle of nowhere. In my last video, I talked about going to the Bahamas. As you could tell by my headwear and the background, this is not the Bahamas. And if you're here looking for new information on the Lynette Hooker situation, this is not that video. I am not here to provide any new information. What I'm going to do is explain the thought process behind going to the Bahamas. And explain me and Marnie's social media journey, how we got to where we are, what our plans are. But if you bear with me for, about 10 minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey, from Seattle to Madagascar to the Bahamas to St. Martin, here in the middle of the desert, and explain just a little bit about why we're involved and who Blaine is. When we started social media, we came up with 4 rules. 1, ignore the comment section. 2, don't make it about us. Make it about the people and the places that we're going to see. 3, ignore drama and hot topic issues like politics, religion, current events. And 4, have fun. If at any point it doesn't become fun anymore, stop. We don't need social media. We're poor. We're living off our retirement, but we're happy. And happiness can't be bought. In this video, I'm going to break 3 out of those 4 rules and walk you along a journey of who Blaine is. And no, I'm not talking about myself in the third person. So if you could indulge me for 10 minutes, I want to explain kind of why we are who we are and what leads to us being involved in this case, that we didn't think would happen when Brian verbal diarrheaed all over our kitchen table. All of this has led us to create a rule number 5, which I will put at the end. But most importantly, I want to share with you that everything we have and everything we're doing that we are allowed to release, we will release. We are not a news agency. We are not a breaking information agency. The information we gather, we turn over to the authorities. We have worked with the authorities. I do believe after this, we're going to make one more video. And that video is going to be a timeline of the information we know to be factual, that we're allowed to release. And then I think we're going to be back to sunsets and fishies. So stick around if you can for 10 minutes to learn about Blaine and why we are and I am who we are. The one thing I do want to state before we get into the story of Blaine is, if this was Marnie, I would hope that Brian, Lynette, Josh, Randy Joe, all the people we met in the sailing community would be out here doing the same thing me and Marnie are doing. Trying to get answers. Trying to find Lynette. Right now the story has shifted to the Coast Guard and Soulmate being in Florida, and the persecution or the, exoneration of Brian is going to happen in Florida. But Lynette's in the Bahamas. And Lynette still hasn't been found. And I think that that is a key to closure for the family, closure for us, closure for my wife. So if there's one message I wanted to get out before we started talking about Blaine, it's that I would want all these people doing the same thing that we are doing. So take that as it will. And now I'm going to transfer to the story of Blaine and why I am who I am. So what does it mean to be Blaine? Well, I'm going to tell you the story of a Blaine. Spent his time in the Pacific Northwest, did a lot of odd jobs. One point, even for a brief period of time, he was a lawyer in Seattle. But at his heart, he was an adventurer and a nomad. Park myself next to this tree. He was an adventurer and a nomad. And what he did was travel the world, looking for adventure. And that took him a lot of places all over Middle East, Europe, a lot of places. Sound familiar? Blaine is the type of person that when he sees something, he does something. And when flight MH370 crashed and a dozen government agencies were involved and billions of dollars were spent. Blaine didn't sit on his butt and say, trust the authorities. See this comment right here? I keep coming back to this comment. And I see this comment when people, and I think to myself, there's some truth to it, but that's not how I'm wired. That's not how Blaine is wired. Blaine Allen Gibson is a former attorney from the Seattle area who lives a nomadic lifestyle. And when flight MH370 crashed, he decided, I'm going to go looking. He did his studying, he did his research, he did his experiments, and he said, hey, I think if there's wreckage, it would wash up here. And you know what Blaine did? He got off his butt, went there, and went looking. And so far today, Blaine Allen Gibson has been credited for finding the most pieces to the wreckage of MH370. Now this leads to trolls and people trying to discredit him because his past is a wide range of weirdness. I can relate. I have more careers in my past than most people have in a lifetime, and I'm only in my 40s. But being a Blaine from Seattle with a law school who lives a nomadic lifestyle, that's a reputation I got to live up to. Now, that doesn't mean I pick up every mystery, but when Brian verbal diarrheaed all over our kitchen table, this is personal. I don't know if Blaine Allen Gibson knew anybody who was on a flight MH370 or if it was just a mystery to him. But Lynette was our friend. Every day we go through more and more messages, and I realize just how close she was to my wife and how this affects my wife. So when people ask, why don't I just leave it up to the authorities? I am leaving it up to the authorities. But sometimes, in some situations, you just gotta put on your boots, you gotta fly to the location, and you've got to walk. A lot of people are wondering what the Bahamas are doing right now. Right now, we know the Coast Guard is focused on Soulmate. And we know that criminally, something's going to come down. They're going to find evidence to prove Brian right. They're going to find evidence to prove Brian guilty. That's not my place. Me, I'm going to go to the Bahamas if I can, as soon as we get permission from the Bahamian government. And I'm just going to look. So as much as I want to get back to our sunset lives and our fishies and making videos of the places that we go and, the fact that Grenada has a Thanksgiving Day celebrating the U.S. or the 5 different layers to the wonderful island of St. Martin, all these videos that we have ready to go or was our plan for our social media. Right now, this situation calls. I work with the family. I'm working with many people involved, and it might mean that I just strap on some boots, go to the Bahamas, and look. Because right now, I don't know who's doing that. I know Nathan is doing it for Ashley Banfield, and I give that guy highest regards. If you can, throw him support, throw him some love, do what you can. Please do. We are not trying to make a social media empire out of Lynette's tragedy. In fact, that's why we're putting it on YouTube. For those who don't know, we are fairly successful on TikTok. In fact, we were averaging probably, I'll be honest, $500 to $600 a month off of TikTok as our social media platform. When this situation happened, we stopped. We do not put this information on TikTok. We do not make ourselves relevant on TikTok, and we've stopped doing what we're doing. So for those in the haterade comments that state, we're losing money off this. That's not a pity me thing. That's just to show that our integrity we're trying to make sure that our integrity isn't questioned. Truth of the matter is, whatever happens to Brian and the Coast Guard in Florida, that doesn't bring closure to Darlene, Carly, my wife. And so when people were asking, well, what the heck are you going to do in the Bahamas? I don't know. But I don't know if Blaine Allen Gibson knew what he was going to do in Madagascar either, and look what he did. Billions of dollars spent by dozens of governments, and one guy decided he was going to go look. And I want to be that guy. So, next week I'm going to be posting a timeline, because there's a lot of false information, disinformation, loud motorcycles, out there. There's a lot going on out there that I don't think people have a linear story of what is factual, what is made up, what is speculation. And so I'm going to spend this next week. I'm going to get permission from the authorities that I can to put out what I can. And I'm going to put out a linear timeline of events that are known and factual that you can verify yourself. So people can start to understand this story. For Brian's good or for Brian's ill, but help us find the story so we can find Lynette. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, is giving Darlene, giving Carly, and giving Marnie closure. And all the others that I haven't met and talked to. All the others I've seen on TV that care. I am egged on every day by somebody I am now considering a personal hero. Somebody who motivates me in Dan Danforth. His faith, his messages of encouragement, his ability to come forward and call a spade, that's something I respect. It was very easy to hide. It was very easy to not get involved. That's simple. There's no clicks involved in that. There's nothing I have to sit down and do. But when Carly had the bravery to come forward, when Darlene had the bravery to come forward, when Dan Danforth had the bravery to come forward, my 21 years of Army service doesn't allow me to sit on the sidelines. My history of being Blaine, from Seattle, living a nomadic lifestyle, having the time, didn't allow me to look at Blaine Allen Gibson and say, I can't be like you, I want to be you. So that's why I go to the Bahamas. And if we have authority, I'll go to the Bahamas. If the situation on the ground changes and information comes out and more people find out anything, we're back to sunset lives and fishies and not deserts and 40-degree weather and beanies. And we're going to continue our journey and our social media journey the way it was meant to be, and the way we planned, which leads me to rule number 5. We're making no more social media rules. Our life is our life. If we're going to share it, we're going to share it. Will we work as guidelines off the first 4 rules? Of course. All right. I don't think you're going to be seeing too many bikini shots unless it's me in the bikini. That's already happened. Go back and look through our TikTok. I don't think that we're ever going to touch religion and politics, but you know what? We were heading to Venezuela before they started shooting down boats. We just didn't advertise that. So our life is a public life, and that includes public factors. Just understand that at no point am I trying to benefit off of my missing friend. I am trying to work my tail off to find my missing friend. And at the end, if there's a story told of all of this after Lynette is found, whether it be on a beach with 4 guys feeding her grapes or unfortunate tragedy, and we will have a lot to share. There has been a lot going on in the background. There's a lot of information we have that we can't share. But that's not who we are or who we wanted our social media to be. And I just want to say that if you're going to follow along for the ride should be Amazon rainforests and cafes and beaches. But we don't know. This is our life. Welcome.